Hello there, you ghoulish fiends, and welcome back to the second episode of Creep or Sleep. This is your host, the Goon, and today's episode was featuring a story by PodBeard founder TJ Hodder. I wonder if he's gonna get harder listening to this story. Anyways, this story is titled, I'm a Logical Thinking Person. I'm going to let Matt take over now, but don't worry, I'll be back.
The following is a true story about an encounter I had that can only be explained as paranormal. My entire life, I never truly believed in ghosts, spirits, or other paranormal encounters. I consider myself to be a very logical thinker. Everything always has an explanation. That was until the summer of 2012 when I started working at my dream job. My day started off earlier than I had planned. I had barely slept the night before as I was far too excited. Though I was groggy, I sprung out of bed. Everything was perfect that day. Nothing could get me down because today I had my first solo shift at my brand new dream job. As I made my way into work, it seemed like the perfect day. The sun was shining, and even on the radio, they were playing exactly what I wanted to hear. This is going to be one of the best days of my life, I thought to myself as I pulled into the parking lot. Upon inspection of the building, it seems quite normal. A medium-sized storefront housed inside an old building made of brick. I believe historic was the correct word that they used. It had its own charm, though it had an interesting history. I opened the front door and walked into what would become my life for the next 3 years. Guitars laid in the walls, below sat amplifiers, and we even had a few drum sets set up on our makeshift indoor stage. What an amazing atmosphere. Though, to be honest, every time I walked into the store in the morning, I always felt a coldness that I could never quite explain. I got right to work opening the store and performing my daily duties, lots of calls, emails, and even a couple of guitars to fix. I was going to be the best at this job as it's what I've dreamed of. The pressure I put on myself was immense, though I didn't mind. This was what I wanted. As I worked throughout the morning, it turned out to be a slow day, which I don't mind. More time to work on honing my craft as a tech. I did what any good salesperson should never do, and turned my back on the counter as I worked. The door into the store had a beeper. No way would I miss anyone coming in. This, my friends, is where the story gets a little weird. During the renovations of the store, we had some odd things happen. Tools would disappear, radios would turn all the way up on their own, and strangest of all, footprints would appear in dust on the floor of rooms that were locked up. All of which I chuckled at along with my boss. This is just crazy coincidences, right? Well, we were told stories about the building. A rumor that the building, in fact, used to house a crematorium. That the basement was extremely haunted. Some people never felt safe in there, and so on. All of which we laughed off. I never believed any of it. As I worked on a particularly stubborn guitar in the relative peace and quiet of the empty store, I turned around to grab a tool. Only when I turned around, I was met with the slight smile of an older man standing patiently waiting for me to notice him. "Hello, young man," he said friendly while offering a slightly increased smile. I dropped the tool in my hand on the floor with a small thud. It had scared me so bad my heart was beating a mile a minute. "Oh, hi there," I responded, clearly having been just scared half to death. "I'm sorry, lad. I didn't mean to startle you," he said with a concerning smile. A feeling of embarrassment washed over me like a tidal wave. "No, it's okay. I'm so sorry I didn't hear you come in. You were quiet as a ghost, and, well, I startle easily," I said jokingly while offering my hand in a greeting. "My name's TJ. Is there anything I can help you with? I said proudly while engaging in a firm handshake with that elderly man. I quickly glanced over to the door and the motion detector beeper that should have gone off. Stupid thing must be broken, I thought to myself. Yeah, I get that a lot, he said with a small chuckle. It's very nice to meet you. I had just had to come into the store and take a look around. I always love when a new business opens up, he said as he begun to take a small stroll through the store. He walked at a steady, strong pace. His hands were clasped behind his back. He seemed like a perfectly normal, polite old man. We engaged in the usual small talk. Nothing out of the ordinary. What beautiful instruments you have here, he claimed as he admired a particularly nice acoustic guitar that we had sitting on display. All of our instruments are very nice. However, that one is particularly nice due to its wooden features, I said, as I walked over to him. Do you play? I asked. Oh, no. I never had any time to learn, he said with a chuckle. It's never too late, I responded with a smile. He laughed and made his way back to the counter with me. Though a sale would not be made, there was no reason to rush this nice old man out of the store. He seemed to just want to have a friendly chat and was in no hurry to leave. I suppose you've heard a little about these buildings' history, I guess, huh? He said with a smile. Yes, we've heard quite a few stories about the stores that used to be in here, and there are still signs and shelving units left behind from old businesses in the basement. Ah, yes, there must have been many stores here in my life, though this building has an even more interesting history than you may have been told. I don't suppose you've been told about it being a crematorium, he said while maintaining a warm smile, with his hand still clasped behind his back. Yes, I said with a chuckle. We had heard about that rumor. Seems a little silly to me, I said while folding my arms in front of me as I laughed. As the words came out of me, the kind and friendly old man's demeanor completely changed. It is not a rumor, son, he said firmly. The smile that had been on his face nearly the entire time we were conversing left and was replaced with a scowl. His arms were at his side. He seemed to take a slightly aggressive stance. In a slight panic, I apologized. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make a joke or upset you. I felt as if at any moment this old man, whom I'd been having a lovely conversation with, would start screaming at me. He stared at me for a moment. His eyes were fixated on mine. I noticed he began to turn slightly pale. I had clearly upset him. He took a deep, long breath and spoke. A very long time ago, this building was home to a crematorium. Hundreds of people were laid to rest here, for many reasons, sickness, old age, and even more sinister reasons. He calmly spoke while maintaining eye contact with me. His eyes looked as if he was remembering details. This main floor was where the bodies were taken in and given back out. The basement, however, was where the bodies were burned. He turned his attention to the door that led to the basement. You've been down there before? I asked him at this point, trying to steer the conversation. Not in a very long time, he uttered while turning his attention back to me. He began to explain the exact layout of our basement as it would have looked back then. On the far north side is where the bodies were burned, led to be by a tight hallway. On the opposite side was where they were left in bags after they were burned. People used to say you could still hear the cries and voices of those who kept there awaiting their trip home or to the cemetery. As he continued to speak, his skin turned more and more pale and clammy. Are you okay, sir? I asked him, concerned, as clearly he was not well. Yes, he said firmly. However, I should be getting back. It's quite late, he said with tiredness to his voice. He kept eye contact with me as I looked over to the clock. It was 11:38 a.m., and I, however, was secretly happy he was leaving, as the whole conversation just, frankly, left me with a feeling of horror. The old man then began to slowly move over to the door, and what was once a steady walk turned into a weak shuffle. He seemed barely able to keep himself upright. "Sir, are you sure you're all right? You don't look well. I'll be happy to call someone for you," I said, again in a more concerning tone. He stopped just before opening the door and slowly turned around. He somewhat leaned on a little railing we had by the door. He looked at me with eyes that seemed dead. I couldn't look him directly in the eye. "No, lad," he said, weakly, yet with a firmness that was far more frightening. "I'll be fine. It's too late for me," he said softly. "However, I wish you all the best with your business." He let out a slight smirk, and for but a moment I saw the friendly look return to his eyes. "Thank you, I appreciate that." Still concerned for the well-being of this elderly man, and still somewhat horrified at the events that had just transpired. He opened the door. The beeper did not go off again. As he took a step outside, he turned back one last time. "Oh, and good luck with the building. You're going to need it," he said lowly as he shot me a wicked smile. It was one of the most horrifying things that I had ever witnessed. It was a wide smile, but there was now happiness behind it. Only a horrifying thought. It sent a shiver down my spine that to this day I cannot forget. He turned back around, walked out the door, and turned left to walk down the dead main street. I felt an overwhelming feeling of horror and danger overtake me, while still being concerned about this clearly disturbed elderly man. I ran out from behind the counter. No way could I clearly let this not well man go. He needed help. I ran over and opened the door. I was greeted by the familiar loud beeping of our motion detector. Startled me so badly that I nearly fell over. "What the fuck is going on with this?" I yelled to myself, utterly horrified. I ran out the door only to find that the slow, shuffling old man was gone. There were no cars on the street, no cars in the alley, and all doors going to the apartments were locked. I ran to the shops next door in the direction that I saw the old man walking in. "Has anyone walked by or come in here?" I asked, each one in the panic. None of them had seen a customer in a couple of hours, or even seen someone walk by for that matter. It had to be impossible. I ran back to the store to check our trusty security cameras. We had multiple cameras capturing all sides of the store, the alley next to us, and our back. There is 100% no way you could walk out from the store in either direction without us seeing you on the camera. I quickly rewound all of the cameras that capture video of the alley in the front of our store. When I came to footage of the man in the store, I knew I had to watch him leave. I watched on the video as the old man walked out the door. He shuffled to just below the frame of the camera and looked up. He looked up directly into the camera with that same horrifying smile, then just walked completely out of frame. As I moved to the next camera, he was gone. Completely gone. There is a maybe foot of building between where the cameras capture. It would be impossible for a car to park there and it not be caught. He was not walking up the street when I ran out, and he could not have went into the apartment buildings. I even asked the tenants if they had seen anything. No one had. I was mortified. This man had given me a horrifying story and a warning, and then just disappeared. As I sat staring at the monitor, paused on the horrifying smile of this old man, I had a customer walk in. I shook the horrifying thoughts out of my head and did my job. The rest of my day was great. However, the next few nights I could not close my eyes without seeing that horrifying smile. It haunted me for days. I finally told my loving and understanding girlfriend what had happened, as she was so concerned. She said, "You have a really strong imagination. Maybe that's all it was." Maybe she's right. Maybe the whole thing was just my imagination. Maybe there's a logical explanation. I went to work the next day to try and download the recording because I needed to show people. I came to find that our recording device had stopped working. And it never worked again. This was the first of many encounters that I had at this job. Some positive, others downright horrifying. But I'm a logical thinking person, right? Now, I believe anything is possible.
My, what a creepy story. I wonder what the old man's up to now, haunting tanning booths. Well, if you have a story that you want us to narrate, send us an email at redhood0513@gmail.com. That is redhood0513@gmail.com. And once again, Matt wanted me to thank TJ for allowing us to narrate this haunting tale. Until next week, will you creep or sleep?